In a past segment, we discussed a clip from Kevin McCarthy's appearance on Fox News where he discusses Matt Gaetz. But other things happened during this interview that I want to get into as well. One moment in particular where Kevin McCarthy tries to get away with a really dishonest talking point that we've heard before, but it's always rather aggravating whenever I hear it. And Howard Kurtz nicely fact checks him immediately. And it seems to sort of stun Kevin McCarthy. He didn't seem to expect this correct response from Howard Kurtz on Fox News. So without further ado, here's the moment. Then there's a lot to discuss about it. And by the way, while you're watching this, please make sure you are subscribed to this channel by just clicking the subscribe button to help us grow the show.
These people talk about a democracy.
Danger to democracy.
They are the dangers to try to deny democracy to this country. This is really concerning to me what the Biden and the Democrats have done. I mean, I
want to get into the trial more in the next segment.
But has Hillary ever said she lost the 2016 election?
Yeah, she called Donald Trump and conceded.
But she never in press. Election?
Yeah, she called Donald Trump and conceded.
But she never.
That's the part where he seems a little, what?
Donald Trump had conceded.
But she never in press ever says that. She says it was.
She did call Donald Trump and concede. Yeah. All right, so.
Look how discombobulated he got. Okay, so what is Howard Kurtz referring to? Well, indeed, Hillary Clinton called Trump and conceded the night of the election. But then, after Kevin McCarthy said that the press never was told that Hillary Clinton is accepting that she lost, then she gave this speech the next morning.
Last night, I congratulated Donald Trump and offered to work with him on behalf of our country. I hope that he will be a successful president for all Americans. This is not the outcome we wanted or we worked so hard for, and I'm sorry that we did not win this election.
She called him to say that she's conceding and wants to help unite the country, work together for the betterment of America. And that she did not win is what she said was disappointing. That would be accepting that she lost. Okay, Kevin McCarthy. Now, before I show you another moment where Kevin McCarthy, and as it's paused here, you can see his face is rather strange, where he tries to push a different strange and dishonest talking point. To respond to that, what is he referring to when he says that she hasn't accepted that she lost? Well, again, he's wrong. He's wrong. That's the simple answer. He's lying. But we can go a step further and say what's going on in his mind. What is he deriving that from? And nothing that I'm about to say is at all comparable, which is what he's trying to do, to MAGA and what MAGA has said about our elections, what Trump has said about elections, and what they've done trying to use those lies to justify what they're doing. But the narrative that is pushed in right-wing media refers to certain moments well after Hillary Clinton already conceded to Donald Trump, as you saw there, already called him to concede and publicly and wished him well and all of it. Then she later expressed her personal view that things weren't as fair as they should have been. She obviously has referred many times to the attempt by Russia to influence the election in favor of Trump through online efforts. And she did say once that Trump knows he's an illegitimate president, I think is the quote. Now, again, not comparable. I'll get into why in a second, but let me just say, as its own issue, I've expressed this all to you before, because of the context of MAGA and election denialism, and now this new escalated form of making statements that sounds something like that and then using those to justify deteriorating the belief in our entire electoral process, I don't think Hillary Clinton should use that term, right? Because it does denote something that she's not meaning, but it does denote that nevertheless. And then another example of this is Katie Porter. Katie Porter didn't mean what MAGA means when she said her election was rigged. And she even acknowledged that and later said, I shouldn't have used that terminology. I was just referring to a lot of money being spent for my competitors. And so she also should not have used that word because of the context of this anti-democratic movement that uses similar words to mean radically different things. So that's why people should stay away from using those terms altogether, because we've seen how they can be utilized in such dangerous ways. But it does not justify a false equivalency. And here's what I mean. When you're saying, as we used to hear this has been a thing to say, oh, that was rigged, oh, that was illegitimate, but you still concede, and you're not telling your voters that when they go into vote, some fraud is causing their vote to not matter, and that millions of votes are being counted for the opposition that aren't legitimate, and that the deep state has corrupted our entire electoral process in such a way that doesn't even work anymore. That's not what used to be the meaning of those sorts of terms. It was just people expressing anger about the outcome and feeling like maybe something wasn't fair about it because of all the different elements that are at play. That's just a whole different ballgame. Now, we've learned, don't use those because of how they can be used in a really dangerous way and because of the crossover in terms. And we just don't want to cross over at all with what MAGA is saying and thus trying to do with those terms. But to compare the two, silly, given that, again, Hillary Clinton conceded, then Donald Trump never conceded and made factually incorrect statements. Not just a feelings-based statement, but a factually incorrect statement about millions of votes being counted that were fraudulent, and thus our democratic process doesn't work. And so that then makes people think justified. Things like attacking the Capitol and the efforts by Trump to overthrow our democratic process and install himself as president through schemes like the fake elector scheme, actually trying to prevent Biden from taking over as president, whereas Hillary Clinton lost. And you know what happened? The Democratic president at the time, Barack Obama, brought Trump immediately to the White House. This is our president-elect. We wish him the best, and we're going to try to work with them, and it's going to be a smooth transition. And that gives you a sense of the wild contrast between the two. And the best they have is bringing up Hillary Clinton, who's pretty politically irrelevant right now, to be honest. They got nothing on Joe Biden, but the comparison's absurd. Here's one example of a time that I fact-checked a Trump supporter who tried to make that similar point.
Should we arrest and throw Hillary Clinton in jail for challenging her election, or should we take,
I'm so happy you asked that.
Should we
I
take
thought
Al
you were a
Gore?
smart guy, and
Should
then
we
you're letting me
take Al
down
Gore?
here. How could you possibly compare what Hillary did and what Trump did when Hillary
They call it
said
question a national election.
Right. Which I think in situations she acted inappropriately. What did she do? Her freedom of speech. What did Trump do?
Should she be arrested?
Coordinated conspiracy to overthrow the election. She didn't try to do that. Did she try to work with Obama to put her into power as president? No.
Did she?
He immediately brought Obama, that is, Trump, to the White House and said, this is our next president, and hoorah. And she called to concede to him, and she delivered a concession speech the next day. How could you, number one, compare that to the speech? And Trump's not even being prosecuted for his speech. He's being prosecuted for the actions he justified with his speech.
So we now are against free speech, and we want our government.
Were you listening to me?
Yeah.
I just said it explicitly.
No, I heard what
not
you said.
freedom of speech.
I know.
So you heard me sort of reiterate points that I already made there, but always interesting to see those sorts of conversations with Trump supporters. And the last point I'll make is it good or is it okay or is it not? Right? So you can't even compare, I feel like things weren't as fair as they can be on one end, and millions of fraudulent votes were counted. Our democracy doesn't work anymore. Go to the Capitol, fight like hell. Biden can't take over as president. We can't have a peaceful transfer of power. The fake elector scheme, pressuring Mike Pence to overturn the results unilaterally, pressuring local officials to engage in fraud to keep me in office. Just a whole different thing over there. That's what we're talking about with election nihilism and trying to stop the peaceful transfer of power with it. But let's even say there's any comparison. So Kevin McCarthy, are you condemning Hillary for that? Are you? And then are you condemning Trump too then? Because you're saying they're the same. Which, making an equivalence is crazy. But that's not what he's doing. He said Trump's not a threat to democracy. Hillary Clinton is. Why? Because she once said that she felt irked by the results or something. And so then you're saying that it's more of a threat to democracy to sort of vaguely allude to an election not being fair versus actually trying to overthrow an election after saying stuff like that. That's crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. Here is more from this interview.
Companies that get news couldn't repost a story.
Right.
So why wouldn't
Twitter
the
was involved in
no.
that? Yeah.
To be fair, why wouldn't the president take a different position? Why wouldn't Joe Biden, caring about the voters, saying, you know what, this is wrong. If I have nothing to do with this, they should not have this trial right now, so the American people could actually spend time on what the issues are.
Hold on. So
I think.
By the way, I'm going to go back. He's talking about, as I'm sure you could tell, Trump's criminal trials, his criminal prosecutions. And he's saying that Biden should jump in to interfere in favor of Trump. He should be so aghast by these prosecutions that he'll jump in and as president somehow interfere and prevent Trump from being prosecuted. But I also know you're wondering, so I'll just get ahead of it and answer for you. Nobody can figure out. We keep asking, we don't know why Kevin McCarthy always speaks like he's speaking to a child. We don't know. We really don't. But here's this again.
If I have nothing to do with this, they should not have this trial right now so the American people could actually spend time on what the issues are.
Hold on. So
I think that would be the real position for this Biden to take.
So you're saying you did want President Biden, you do want him to meddle with the justice system just in favor of Donald Trump.
No, I want his opinion to be fair. I want his opinion to look for the American people in fairness.
To look for the American people in fairness? To look for the American people, are you in fairness? Where are you?
Who in America thinks it's right that if Joe Biden was in trial right now beforehand, or that President Trump, and really
Wait, what? Strange phrasing. My goodness. But it's just weird. He is arguing for Biden to interfere. He says that Biden should get involved as president to try to prevent Trump from being prosecuted. But your movement is saying that the reason why Trump's prosecutions are wrong and illegitimate, and even if there are violations of the law there, he shouldn't be prosecuted, is because this is being directed by. So Biden's interfering with our justice system by directing it at his opponent, which obviously not a single scrap of evidence of that. Biden has stayed out of this altogether. But they're saying, flip it around. It's bad for Biden to interfere to hurt Trump, but it's good for him to interfere to help Trump. You're crazy. That's what that is, okay? Kevin McCarthy, my goodness. Just absolutely no consistency and no logic. And I just don't understand why Biden wouldn't interfere. Let me know what you thought of all that in the comments.